the South Bronx, the borough that gave birth to hip-hop.
There's a militarized police department that is ready to attack the people. Young people have taken the streets, they've shut down the highway.
There's an understanding that when the planet wins, the people win too.
Don't stop. Don't stop. Amor, justicia, hip hop, revoluciones.
Peace, this is G1 for And You Don't Stop, Telesud English in Chicago, Illinois. We're standing outside of the Wishbone restaurant, where we just heard from Troy LaRiviere, the principal who was recently ousted from Blaine Elementary School after a feud with Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Let's go inside and talk to them and see what more he has to say.
According to the standards used by the mayor's office, there are only 4 schools that consistently and substantially raise student achievement year after year after year. For the past 5 years, I've had the pleasure of leading one of those schools, Blaine Elementary.
Troy has been an inspiration to me from the time that I started as a parent at Blaine just this last year. He's a fighter, and he's not only a fighter for Blaine Elementary School children, but he is a fighter for the children and the teachers of CPS.
I've been at Blaine for 8 years, so I was under the other, I was there during the other principal's reign, and just the amount of positive changes that have come into our school since Mr. LaRiviere has been our administrator has just, it's been tremendous. There's more open communication. He spends time on our children. He spends time on professional development. I've said for years that one of his biggest strengths is hiring the best teachers he can find, and I truly believe that.
We have an incredibly simple philosophy for success. Take the things that have been proven to work and do them. Unfortunately, that is not this administration's strategy. Their education policies have been ideologically driven, clumsy, and scientifically baseless. I've talked with so many principals who are deeply troubled by the obstacles this administration puts in their way. Underfunding, a flawed school rating system, a lack of support for schools that serve the most vulnerable children, and a lack of respect for their time, a culture of fear and intimidation, and a burdensome compliance-driven paperwork. The list goes on. Under this administration, teaching, learning, and leading are far more difficult than they have to be. This is a direct result of the fact that this administration is focused on creating financial relationships that ensure that rich donors profit from our students' losses. It is inherently corrupt, and corruption breeds incompetence. Instead of being guided by self-interest, we must see this city as our family and decide that the well-being of everyone in that family has to take precedence, must be the priority. This must be our vision, and we must act to make it so. So I made that decision 3 years ago, that my Chicago family would be my priority. And I base my actions on that decision. Those actions in defense of our family led my colleagues to nominate me for president of the Chicago Principals and Administrators Association. If elected, I made it clear that I would create systems and relationships that would end principals' isolation and bring them together to have a shared voice, to be a shared voice for policies that support our students instead of undermine our students.
We found out about Troy being reassigned over spring break. Several of our children heard of the news via email directly to them.
We didn't hear about it in the best way. It was kind of a fiasco. My child, my 6th grader, heard about it through email before I did.
We were, to say the least, stunned that he was let go, or reassigned, as they called it. And we were stunned because Troy has been nothing but an incredible advocate for our children, an amazing leader of our administration and our teachers, an incredible fighter again for the children of CPS.
Just all around, our school is a better place because of him. And for someone, for the CPS to come in and take that away from us is just not right.
A lot of Blaine parents, members of the LSC, are upset that they were not involved with this decision. You've got a principal who's been repeatedly honored for his performance. What do you say to these parents and LSC members who feel like they weren't brought in on this.
Well, I'll take that question. The first
Okay?
thing I'd like to say.
I'd like to hear from the mayor too, though.
Well, you can hear from the mayor, but I think it's more appropriate to hear from CPS because it was a CPS decision. So the first thing I'd say about that is that we're following protocol, as everyone in this room is aware. Whenever you're dealing with a disciplinary situation, it's incumbent upon the employer to follow certain rules, and we're doing just that.
When I was a lone voice, the administration tolerated it. But when faced with the prospect of an organized group of education leaders speaking as one on behalf of our students, they moved with haste and reckless abandon to prevent that from happening.
I do not get involved in personnel decision. I can understand if I'm getting blamed, but I'm just being clear. I'm adhering to the Chapman Decree.
But Mayor, everyone thinks that you're playing a role in this because he is also running for president of the Principals Association. Are you saying that that's not the end game of this?
I said exactly what I said. I do not get involved in personnel decisions.
I've already written about this administration's removal or attempt to remove me before. Today I'm here to respond to the politically motivated charges that they've assembled as a false justification for that removal. The broad categories of the charges are insubordination, ethics violations, which were all connected to my support for Bernie Sanders and Chuy Garcia, and dereliction of duty. The charges under insubordination have to do with my support for my teachers, my opposition to park testing, and speaking out against corruption. In May of 2014, I was the first and only active CPS employee to publicly question a $20 million contract for a company called Soups Academy. And last July, I questioned this administration's own corrupt and reckless fiscal management. And once again, I cited the Soups contract. In response, the mayor's hand-picked Board of Education issued a warning resolution against me that served as a prelude for their current attempts to fire me. Right after I received that warning resolution, Barbara Berg Bennett was indicted and later convicted for her role in the Soup scandal. That very scandal, they punished me for criticizing. If you value responsible management of tax dollars, you're supposed to commend the people who identify waste and fraud, not punish them. But punish me they did.
We teach our children, and we want to be able to teach our children that this is a democracy. We want to be able to have them understand what that means, that their voice can make a difference. And Troy does just that.
I also speak out as a veteran who put my life in harm's way to defend our freedom of speech rights. I resolved that there was no way I was going to go 5,000 miles away to defend those rights against the likes of some foreign dictator, only to return to my own country and have to submit those rights to the likes of a municipal elected official.
But this is a moment in time where it's been difficult for us to rationalize to our children why someone who's speaking out on behalf of our children, our teachers, and our parents in our community was reassigned at this juncture.
Another one of the charges was dereliction of duty. They charged me with not completing my REACH teacher evaluation ratings. They are right. I've never completed the REACH ratings. And that is the reason our school is so successful. REACH is based on a framework created by Charlotte Danielson for teacher observation. It is noteworthy that the most prominent critic of REACH is none other than Charlotte Danielson herself. She says that the vast majority of teachers need to focus on professional development. In other words, we need to replace our emphasis on rating with an emphasis on learning. And so that's what I did. And it worked. That's how Blaine got to where Blaine is. So for the past 3 years, I've accepted the lawyer evaluation without complaint. But somehow this year, now that I'm running for president of the Principals Association and speaking out, the penalty is somehow jumped from a lawyer evaluation to termination without any warning or notice. The more important point, however, is that this system is so backward that they put principals in a position to have to decide between doing what's good for their own personal evaluation or doing what's good for students. No educator should ever be put in that position. But it happens all the time in CPS under this administration.